The following event is rated F for Fortnite bears. This fall, vengeance is a dish best served gold. Midas's revenge. The shadows will rise. Buckle up. The spirit world kicks into high gear. If you can't beat him, join him. And stick around for the Afterlife Party featuring J Balvin.
What's going on, Fortnite fam? Reset back with another video, and in today's video I want to cover height. We're going to be using Zayt, Saf and Stretch as an example, and one of their games where they picked up a victory royale from Qualifier 3 Round 3 of the FNCS. Across the 12 games, these guys picked up 4 victory royales, and they hold height in an absolutely textbook way, so let's dive into that. Firstly, just for super basic, height is when you're on the very highest layer of the moving zones in endgame, and this is powerful for many reasons. Firstly, because you use the least amount of materials to traverse the moving zones, you have a ton of angles on players to shoot down on, you have the best opportunities for healing, and you only need to worry about players below you, so you don't have to cover your left, right and above, which you'll have to on low and mid ground layers. I like to categorize the art of playing high ground into 2 separate categories: claiming and maintaining. Claiming high ground does not start in the end game, it starts much earlier in the mid game, and in this game in particular, Zayt, Saf and Stretch try to claim the high ground as early as the 3rd zone. You can see them take up a large amount of space horizontally here, with Zayt and Saf building over onto another area, so they have 2 separate points of high ground. Later on in the game, when the 4th zone appears, they're not actually inside of this zone, so they wait late until other players have already built up there, and then they all shockwave over and claim the high ground there. The only reason that these guys get to the highest layer in 4th is because they'd already set themselves up on a higher layer in the 3rd zone. This allows them simply to just shockwave over and claim it. From here on out, our team's goals switch up from claiming high ground to maintaining it. Really, they're not looking for a huge amount of eliminations here. Their main goal is just to ensure they are the only ones on height. They do this by shooting at other players who have built up in other areas of the zone to around equal levels of them, and also by looking down, looking at players who are 1 or 2 layers below them, and pressuring these guys to make it seem like there's no chance that they're going to claim height over Zayt, Saf and Stretch. You can see that the 5th zone is almost max distance from where they are now, so this is where Zayt, Saf and Stretch are going to need to start claiming the high ground again. Zayt hits a beautiful snipe on one of the opposing players at the opposite height, so this is an immediate flag that our team should now just go and grab that height, because these guys are going to be on the defensive, trying to pick up the res on this teammate, and aren't going to be focusing on maintaining that high ground. What Zayt does is he actually shockwaves over to another layer of builds and then builds out into the zone to create a different area of high ground. Then, once this is solidified, Saf and Stretch both then come over onto this high ground, and then Zayt actually goes over to the other layer of high ground where he sniped the player and builds up here. This is exactly the same thing we saw in the 3rd zone, where they've claimed 2 separate layers of high ground. They do this because they give absolutely no opportunities for any other team to take high ground at this point. So in the 5th zone, these guys have this completely locked down. At this point, because these guys have claimed 2 separate layers of high ground, it doesn't matter which way the zone pulls, as these guys already have claimed all of the high ground layers. In all honesty, this is the hardest part done. These guys have good materials still left, and now they just need to ensure that they maintain height all the way through the moving zones. The main threat that they have is players using their shockwave grenades to fly up and take height from them. So the way that they defend against this is by having one player on what we call ultimate high ground. In this game, in the first few moving zones, this is Zayt. He stays up 3 or 4 layers above to ensure if anyone shockwaves up, he doesn't get knocked out. This allows him to spray any players at contesting and really take control of that high ground. And at the same time, you can see Saf move further ahead of the zone and spray backwards at players down below, while Stretch stays on the same layer as Saf and just consistently applies pressure to all the players below. You continue this form up until the 9th zone, the final moving, because this is when the heal off is going to need to happen. And you can see that Saf throws his white heals, which is medkits, up towards Stretch so that Stretch can stay on the ultimate high ground where Zayt was instead. And then if this game goes down to a heal off, he can stay on the ultimate high ground, heal with the medkits, while Zayt and Saf are on the low ground, completely trying to frag out and distract the other players who are alive. Zayt ends up completely popping off on low ground and picking up the victory royale, meaning they didn't end up needing to use those medkits for the heal off. However, if Zayt didn't manage to pop off here and the 9th zone ended up closing, they would have won this either way. Hope you guys enjoyed and learned a lot. I've been Resub, see you in the battle boss. Beep beep.